ICCCon, welcome back. We are ECP. I'm Matt.
I'm Micah.
And we are here with the legendary author and creator, Timothy Zahn. Thank you so much for joining us, sir.
Thank you for having me. I should make one correction.
Uh-oh, here we go.
On the Blu-ray for Rebels Season 3, there's a squib, a little bit of talking about how they brought me to Lucasfilm and talk about I'm on a couple of things there. So I believe I'm no longer legendary, I'm canon.
You just got snapped by Zahn. All right, and this interview was great, Matt. You can go
Thank
now.
you guys. Thank you, Timothy, for joining us. Wow. That is, that right there. That was amazing.
That just made my day.
That made my day.
Julian Glover was awesome, but that just made my day.
That was amazing. I don't think I was ever a part of anything as amazing as that.
And
right
scene.
So let's jump into it. I mean, it's all downhill from here.
Pretty much, yes.
So, Timothy, you or Mr. Zahn, I don't know what you would like.
Timothy's fine.
You've created and brought in some amazing characters into the Star Wars universe, and I'm just gonna. I think we all here know that Thrawn is your prized possession in this universe. I want to, for those at home who are watching and who are new to the Star Wars universe, can you give us a little backstory on how Thrawn came into the books, into the universe?
When I was first offered the Thrawn trilogy back in 1989, one of the things I knew I wanted to do was to write something that was Star Wars but was not doing the same thing George had already done, because he'd done it so well. So that meant no Death Star, no super weapon, no Vader type, no Emperor type. Okay, now who do we have for an antagonist villain? Vader rules by fear. The Emperor manipulates and uses Force lightning.
Right.
More fear. Seems to me a more dangerous opponent is someone who leads through loyalty. Because if your troops are loyal to you, they will fight whether you're in the room with them or not.
Yeah.
If you've got them, if they are convinced you are doing, they are doing the best and you are appreciative and you are giving them their best chance of victory, they will fight. So, all right, backtrack from there. What kind of person will the troops be loyal to? Tactical strategic genius, so they know you're likely to win whatever battle they're thrown into. Does not get ego involved in a battle to the point where you're wasting troops. You see so many battles in history where you see the general clearly should have pulled back, but his ego was on the line, or I'm going to beat them today or die trying, and thousands of men died for that. When he sees he's losing, pull everybody back, pick another time and place. There's always another time and place.
Right.
We'll take suggestions from subordinates. A lot of commanders in history have been too ego-driven to do that either. If it's a good suggestion, take it. Doesn't matter where it came from.
Right.
Various things of that sort. And then since the Emperor didn't seem to have any non-humans in his upper ranks, make him non-human. Because if he can get to be a Grand Admiral, he must be something very special.
Right.
And that's Thrawn.
And especially since around that time period when your books were coming out, that was very known in the books that he did not recruit non-human commanders or higher ranking officers. And I thought that was one of my favorite things in the book, the first Heir to the Empire, that I was like, oh wow, he's taking it the go. I like the way you're going. I like the way you're doing.
Well, see, I like your details to getting to this new character that's very unique and a different approach to commanding all these troops and everything. As you said, Darth Vader and Emperor Palpatine had their own ways. Was it difficult to get to Thrawn? Like, were you? I know, like now you have it. You've written so much of him. He's your child. He's your baby. You've got books out there. By the way, he's got a lot of books out there that are amazing. Come down, get to his booth, buy his books. But before now that he's like your child, was it really difficult to get to Thrawn, especially like the name Thrawn?
Well, the name actually was fairly easy. In the early stages, as I was starting to plot out the trilogy, I thought that being the only non-human in the upper ranks might have made him a little neurotic. Now, I took that characteristic very quickly and put it on Jorah Sabaoth instead, made him the crazy Jedi, and so it took all that away from Thrawn. But by that point, I'd already picked the name, which is Scottish for twisted.
Oh, I never knew that.
Me either.
So,
wow.
and it sounded good, and I'd grown up with the man from Uncle's whose opponent was Thrush, so the THR combination I'd always liked anyway.
Oh, yeah.
So I came across Thrawn means twisted. I like the sound of it. We'll build the character differently than I'd originally planned, but the names stayed.
Yeah.
Then when West End Games started doing source books, the Heir to the Empire source book, they sent me the proofs, and they'd given Thrawn a first name. And I thought, this does not feel right, so let's take this off. I will work on a more unique name, which is where the Chiss form of names came from, Mithran Odo. But back in the day, it was just Thrawn. And
Yeah.
Was that the when they were coming to bring that to change his name and everything? Was that the most that they've tried to change your character? Has there ever been in the existence of Thrawn been someone who comes in and has tried to change Thrawn outside of what you wanted?
There have been, West End was very good. He doesn't have a first name, let's put one in there.
Right.
And when I said, let's not do this, they were fine at taking it out, so it never saw print at all. There were other authors who took some of my characters and did not necessarily do the best with them, or at least not the way I would have done. And there were other people who'd referred to the Chiss ascendancy and the various, the cultures and things like that, and I would kind of look a little askance. No, one family is not going to be in charge of all the agriculture, another family in charge of all the spaceship design. That's not how families, corporations, large entities work. So when the Ascendancy series trilogy was pitched to me, one of the things Pablo Hidalgo said is, everything else that's been written about the Chiss is now legends. If you want to ignore that and start over from ground up and build the Chiss culture, go for it. I thought, oh, goody.
Oh,
Yeah.
So I got to rebuild
like
all
a
the
toy
things
box.
that this is world building is part of the fun of doing science fiction, of building the culture, building the society, making it all work, feel like it will work, but not be the same as what we're doing already. We don't have the executive, legislative, and judicial branches in the ascendancy. We have the 9 ruling families, and they provide the checks and balances that our system does a different way.
I love in your Thrawn books, and the Ascendancy books, that you kept the name Skywalker for not just Anakin. That when you read that, he pops in your head, but you're like, I loved how you used that word and what the characters who can. I'm not trying to give any spoilers for your book, but for what they do, being a Skywalker, I thought that was great writing.
Thanks.
I was like, man, wow, you took something canon and made it even better.
Well, Thrawn, the what I call the Imperial Trilogy, Thrawn Alliances, Thrawn Treason, those books were contracted one at a time. So I did not have the ability to start a plot or thread.
Oh,
or
so you didn't have like a thought out and then...
The Ascendancy trilogy and the original Heir to the Empire were the only trilogies I've gotten. Everything else has been contracted one at a time.
Oh, wow.
So I could not do the same kind of linkage there. So mentioning the Chiss Skywalkers was at that point not a throwaway line, but I don't expect to do anything more with it outside of this book of alliances. And then we come with treason. Okay, now I can expand on that. And then they drop the idea of doing a prequel trilogy with the Ascendancy. And now I get to develop all of that within the culture and how all that works together.
That's so awesome that you just wrote something kind of as a throwaway, homage almost, and then you get to make it so big, like, wow, that's cool.
Well, I remember discussing years ago with our son, who was in the middle of the Harry Potter books at the time, and pointing out there are 2 ways of doing this sort of thing. Either you've got everything planned out and we're now dropping hints. Or as you continue, you look for throwaway lines and expand on those. And they're both equally valid. I don't know which Rowling did. For me, a lot of it is, okay, I can now, this would be a nice hook for something else. Okay, I can use the hook, now let's expand on it. I tend not to overthink too much into the future, because if I don't get to do that book, it's wasted effort where I could have been putting that time and brain power into something that I will be doing.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
So Mara Jade Skywalker was introduced into your storyline. Was that something asked of you, or was that your idea of introducing this character?
Lucasfilm gave me 2 rules at the beginning of the Thrawn trilogy. I could start 3 to 5 years after Return of the Jedi, and I could use anybody who had not been killed in the movies. And that was it.
Oh, wow.
So basically everybody in the Thrawn trilogy that was not in the movies, I may have borrowed a father or somebody from the West End game source materials and just put his son in there. I think Kraken.
Yeah.
Yes.
Kraken's son was in there, but they came up with the father at West End. Everybody else is my creation.
All right.
So Thrawn, Mara, Talon Card, Ghent, Winter, all those people were mine.
So that's amazing, because now, so spoiler alerts, now that we've had some introduction to these characters into these new Star Wars shows and things, are you involved at all with these?
I mention to them periodically, or have my editor, next time you talk to Story Group, mention, I'm available for consultation, to look at scripts, to look at stories, get you coffee, whatever. And I get crickets back. So Lucasfilm is, I know Lucasfilm is paranoid about stuff getting out, and I've heard Disney is worse.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Bear in mind, I've got a 40-year history of keeping secrets.
Right.
But that has not led them to do anything else.
I wanted to ask personally on your thoughts of when in The Mandalorian she asked, "Where's Grand Admiral Thrawn?" How did you feel knowing that this character you've created most likely is going to come to live action now?
Let's see. How do I sum it up? Yes.
I mean, seriously, like he said, this is like your baby. It's like watching your child grow up and go to college, and now it's from paper to animation. And then when we saw Thrawn, the moment we saw Thrawn in animation, I think everyone in the Star Wars universe lost their mind.
Yeah.
And the same thing in The Mandalorian. When she said, "Where is Grand Admiral Thrawn?" everyone went, "Yes!"
It's exactly right. If you could spot a true child of Star Wars by the mere mention of Thrawn, because we didn't have a show or anything, we had to go to the books. Because once the movies were over, what did we have? We had your books.
Yep.
Yes. In our imagination.
In our imagination. So if we wanted to keep it alive in us, we either watched the original trilogy 400 more times, or we just go to the books and keep it going, or the comic books, or anything like that. And Thrawn is that for us, because in the books, you don't get very many big worldly characters like Thrawn that just stand out and can continue on with his own. Like, he is such a big character. That's from a book.
It's the opposite almost of the Boba Fett effect. It's this little character who was in Empire Strikes Back, and now he's this most huge character. It's like with Thrawn, you wrote this 3 books and this semi little character, and now he is just a monster in the Star Wars universe,
slowly taking over the galaxy.
Yes,
it's
as
so
he would.
amazing.
Yeah, he's probably going to be celebrated if he gets to come. We're not going to say he is, because that's up to them. But if he does, he will be cheered on. Just the mere mention of his name.
Filoni would not have dropped his name if he didn't have plans.
Oh,
Filoni knows better than
in
that.
Filoni and Favreau, we trust.
Yeah.
Well, except Book of Boba Fett.
Let me ask you one more question.
Yeah.
Outside of Star Wars, what body of work are you most proud of?
Well, the Cobra books, there are 9 of those, so that's probably my longest non-Star Wars series. There is nothing I've written, except maybe a couple of short stories, that I'm not proud of. And the short stories are, that was not all that good. We'll let the wind quietly go away. But there isn't anything that I would wish I could go and collect every copy and burn it. I'm proud and happy of everything I've written. It's been, some books are better than others, some will connect with a given reader better than others, but every one of them is the best I could do at the time. I put everything I had into it, and I'm satisfied with how they all came out.
Yeah.
Can I ask you this one question? As long as we want Thrawn, will you give us Thrawn?
As long as you want Thrawn, and as long as he makes money for Lucasfilm and Disney, I think they'll let me do it. I mean, that's the way a corporation works.
Right.
We don't.
Well, I mean, you haven't made a
charity.
bad book yet, so I would hope so.
Thank you. But yeah, I mean, as long as Thrawn is making the money, they will keep him around, which is sort of like me. If I stop making the money, I won't get any offers.
I only
that's the way it
ask the
goes.
question because, you know, sometimes some writers I've known to hear that they're like, oh, well, I've done what I think I can do with this character. I want to put him to bed. I want to give him the proper, I don't want to say send
Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, some writers are, it's like we said, we think it's their child, and you know, they want to go full circle with that character. And and we're in the Star Wars universe, so as long as I can have Thrawn, I will take Thrawn as much as you give me Thrawn.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting. Thrawn is basically the same character through all of my books. I mean, he's grown and matured and sees different things. The fun part and what keeps the writing fresh and interesting for me, and hopefully for the readers, we keep getting him in different situations, political, military, with different people around him who have to react to him. And I think that's a lot of how is this dynamic going to work between Thrawn and these people? And since there's always going to be more people, different people to deal with, that's one reason I'm really, really hoping Filoni gets his ducks in a line and I can start working with Thrawn and Ezra in that 9-year gap.
Oh, you just
because there's so much possibility with that.
Yes.
And if Thrawn is largely the same character, but how is his dynamic with Ezra going to be? How is Ezra going to deal with Eli Vanto?
Preach it.
That's going to be a fun one too. But
in
there's
Thrawn we trust too.
all sorts of possibilities. No, as long as they want me to write Thrawn, I am game to write
That
Thrawn.
is awesome to hear.
Yes, and you heard it here. It's as long as you want Thrawn, he is going to give us Thrawn. And the way you can do that, come down to ICCC, go down to his booth, buy a copy of the Ascendancy Trilogy. It's an amazing book. We got one more to read ourselves.
Yeah, I have one. I have one left, the last one.
But he's got all his books out. He's got Heir of the Empire, the Ascendancy Trilogy. He's got some comic books out there. He's got his other novels out there. Do you have a website?
No, I've got a Facebook page.
He's got a Facebook page.
We keep talking about getting a website and never have gotten around to it.
Well, I mean, Facebook page is just as good.
Yeah,
Really.
just
So
as
go
good,
to his
really.
Facebook page, buy his book. It's an amazing character, amazing book series.
Come down here and get it signed by him. He is
and
signing
get
books.
it signed
figures,
by the
everything.
canon Timothy Thrawn. Sir, we want to thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you.
us. It's been a real honor.
No
Thank y'all. Come down all weekend long. You will be here. Get your stuff signed. Get your Thrawn stuff signed. Buy his book. We'll see you this weekend.
This summer, saddle up in Smashville as the Music City hosts the hottest party of the summer, WWE SummerSlam Nashville. For the first time ever at Nissan Stadium, a little bit country, a little bit rock and roll, a whole lot of kick-ass. WWE SummerSlam, Saturday, July 30th. Tickets on sale now.